Welcome to my greenhouse on this fine February day. I'd like to do a video about this bed number 4. So bed number 1 is covered with the row cover over there with strawberries. Bed number 2 is the celery, you can see there, and it goes all the way down. Bed number 3 is here, and it also has some celery and carrots going all the way down. Bed number 4 is right here, and it has this trellis. So I've got these 2 metal T-posts, and then I have a trellis, and this trellis goes halfway down the greenhouse, but by the end of the springtime, it will go all the way down. But this first half right here that has the compost materials inside of it, this has been a question that people have been questioning me about. They say, why are you doing this? I'm doing this because I want to do one thing when I come in this greenhouse. I want to eat food. Everything else, I'm trying to figure out how not to do it. So building trellises and pruning plants and tilling the soil and adding fertilizer and planting seeds and transplanting and tying up crops like trellising them. Harvesting would be something that goes along with eating, but we don't want to do big harvests. We just want to come out and eat and be full and then go away, and then come back and eat and be full and go away. So we're trying to get away from the normal things that we do as farmers. I want this to be a Garden of Eden. When I walk into this greenhouse, I don't want to have to do any of that work. So what does that have to do with this bed number 4 right here? Well, this had tomatoes in it. You can see right here, this is a tomato plant, the old dead plant. So I have left it here, and you can see right here at the top, I whacked it off, so it got cut right here and right here. So it got cut in those 2 places, and then the tops just fell down inside to die and rot. So cutting those tops off was work that we want to get away from. So and in a normal garden, you would take down your trellis every year. This was our trellis that kept the tomatoes up. People do this with peas and green beans, probably other things. And why? Why do we do that? To keep them upright, to keep them healthy, to keep them off the ground, to keep airflow going through them. So there's good reasons to have a trellis. And that's why I have this trellis, but I don't want to take it down this year and then put it up next year and take it down and put it up and take it down and put it up. That's hours of work that I don't want to do. Why can't we just keep the trellis in place and be more natural, like a natural system outside? So I think we can. So if you look at this tomato plant here, it came up here at the top. I didn't cut it off. And so the top, it came all the way up here, and then the top's just way down under the ground there, and it's doing just fine. That's not a problem. We can just let that decompose and rot naturally. I think we can. So I've been dumping my compostable materials in here. You can see a bunch of kale in here, and these kale were weird. They were getting frostbite and they had problems. We like to pick just the really nice tender ones, so these were extras. So when I pruned the plants, I brought them in here. So anything that I prune, I just throw it in here. Now that's extra work we don't want to do, but I don't think it's practical or possible to get rid of all the work in the world. I think we're still going to have to do some work. So the plants, when they die, they feed your microbiome, which are the colonies of certain groups that live in the soil. So you have the bacteria group, the protozoa group, the nematode group, the fungus group, the microarthropod group, the macroarthropod group, which are bugs. You can see them. You don't need a microscope to see those guys. You've got the Enchytraeid group, and you've got the earthworm group, and that pretty much covers your bugs out here, all your creepy crawlies. A lot of those are microscopic, and they need to eat. They're hungry. They're living organisms. So what do they eat? Well, they eat dead plant material. So instead of making an elaborate compost like this one over here, which makes the best compost in the world, which is my worm bin. But this takes a lot of work. We have to make a compost. We go through the thermophilic stage. We turn it 4 or 5 times, maybe 10 times. And then we put it on top. Over the course of a year, it works its way down. We cut it off. We get the compost out of the bottom. And then we make a compost inoculant out of that. It goes onto the ground. If we need to spray it on leaves, we would brew a tea out of that, make a compost tea to put on the leaves of plants. And then we are adding this to the environment. But what we're adding is not just brown water. We're adding the living, active microbes that are functioning in the ecosystem to mineralize the sand, silts, and clays into plant-available foods. So instead of making an elaborate compost, what if we just put the compostable materials in here like this and left them there? And every year when we have stuff to throw away, we just throw it in the middle of a bed like this, and then the plants we grow are going to grow up the branch right here, this pole. So at the bottom of that pole, we're going to put in a pepper plant, or a tomato plant, or a pea plant, or a green bean, or a scarlet runner bean, anything that climbs, like cucumbers. We could probably try different types of melons in here. Minnesota midget melons would probably thrive. All kinds of cantaloupes. So anything that grows on a vine that will come upward, and it will grow up a plant, like this plant here, this beanpole plant, this willow. If it'll grow upward, up the poles, then they're going to be growing up. They're shading the middle. The middle can be a place where the dead detritus is, detritus meaning trash or plant material that's going to compost. So if we have that full of earthworms, the earthworms are going to be tilling the soil, creating a functioning soil in harmony and in synergy with bacteria, fungus, protozoa, nematodes, microarthropods, macroarthropods, and they are going to break that down into a functioning soil. So can we leave this here for 10 years, for 20 years, for 30 years? Yes, I think we can. Eventually, the poles themselves, like this pole, it's not going to last that long. This string won't last that long because all this is biodegradable. But as we continue to add plant material that we prune off of other plants into the center, that feeds those microbes. And as we are planting plants at the base of each of these poles, and they're growing, obviously at this time of year nothing's really growing here because it's cold, and I don't have any winter species in here that vine up. I don't even know of a winter species that vines up. Peas are a cold weather crop, but not in the winter, more spring and fall. But as these plants are growing in here throughout the year, they will be putting out exudates out of the roots that will feed fungus and bacteria colonies. And the fungus and bacteria are going to mineralize, which we've already gone over. So that's what this weird looking trellis is that's being filled with compostable materials. So this is an experiment. This is absolutely an experiment. I've never seen this before done like this, and it probably doesn't look that appealing to some people. I'm not worried about aesthetics right now. I'm not worried about how it looks. I'm not worried about it being perfect. What I want is to have a healthy soil that produces the healthiest food in the world. I'm all about nutrition. I want to have the best food in the world so that we can come in here and our number one priority is to eat food. And we're not doing all the extra work. So instead of gathering up compost materials, taking them outside, making a compost, putting it in the root cellar to compost all winter, or to put it in this worm bin to compost all winter, we just put it here. So wouldn't that be interesting? To just have it here and have the worms doing their thing instead of doing this and harvesting and making extract. So eventually this is where we want to get to. So we don't need the elaborate composts. Our soil just works because we feed it the plants we grow. Hopefully this helps you to have an untidy garden.